Hello, everybody. Welcome to Aquarius Rising Africa. Happy Friday, happy weekend, happy almost New Year. I hope you all are having a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful holiday. And yeah, it was really good to connect with you all. And I see quite a few of us in the chat from our live Zoom gathering the other night. That was really, really cool. And by the way, we're doing it again on Sunday. So those of you who want to join, watch out. Caleb wasn't on last night. He'll be on Saturday as well as Sunday. He's just been feeling a bit under the weather. So we'll have him on tomorrow as well as Sunday. And then Sunday we'll do another Zoom gathering. Anyway, but before we go any further, a big shout out to the show's sponsor, Spooky2. As you guys know, they're a great sponsor for our show, great friend to this channel as well. And they're the creators of the home Rife machine system. So from the teeny tiny one, which I'm actually currently have on, the little Hiwi, it is just the coolest little thing. I got to tell you, I've actually attached it to myself right now. So when I do my shows, that's when I do my Spooky2 stuff. And I'm actually going to do, I mean, I did an unboxing on that, but I'm going to do a little chat on that little thing. It is actually quite miraculous the way that little thing works. Anyway, so if you want to purchase your own machine as well, you're welcome to check out their website and drop my name for your 5% discount on your Spooky2 machine. But before we go any further, we're just going to have a little testimonial playing for you as well before we get Leo on the show. I know you're all waiting for it. I know, awesome show tonight. But I'm just going to ask Mornay to put the ad on for us in the meantime.
Well, my story began before Spooky2, but I was happy to find Spooky2. I don't even remember how I did, but I came across Spooky2 several years ago, and I felt when I looked into it, it was like, oh my God, I'll never be able to figure that out. And I remember not looking at it again. Anyways, and after being sick myself, I had cancer in 2012, and I knew a energy healer here that used right frequencies, and that's how I got healed. And nice. So working with him, I got to understand more about right frequencies and how it worked. And so I don't even remember, but I remember seeing the Spooky2 ad somewhere, and I clicked on it, and it was like, oh my God, this is it. I got to get one. So anyway, so we did. And I've been helping a lot of people because I've been doing the energy work with the right frequencies for 4 years, almost 5 years now. And I had to do an awful lot of research. So when Spooky2 came into my life, it was a God's gift. Well, for me and my husband too, excuse me, also, we've had like sciatica issues, stomach issues. I had lumps in my breath that I was able to clear completely. And we use it overall for like we do the biofeedback, and then we treat ourselves and we feel better like altogether. But I've had clients, I have 4 clients with cancer, and I treat them with the Spooky2, and they're doing well, they're feeling better. I've had some with leukemia, one in particular with leukemia, and her blood level was at 1.5 million, and which is usually too high because it's 240 to 250 is normal. Anyways, and right now it's at 605,000. So it hasn't been that low in a long, long time. So I'm really happy about that. And bowel issues, acid reflux, allergies, gastrointestinal issues, stomach ulcers, those are all things that I've been treating my clients with and having really good success with the Spooky2.
Well, there you have it, guys. So if you want to check it out, you're welcome. Their website and as well as the details are in the chat section. So please drop them a line if you want any further information. They're really, really helpful in terms of getting you started and getting you going on these amazing little machines, little home Rife machines. Cool. Without any further ado, we're going to add Leo. Hello. How are you, Mr. Zagami?
Great.
Lovely to see you again.
Well, I would like to give a Merry Christmas in delay, as we are 4 days late, but it's okay. It's okay. I think that we can also give a Happy New Year's Eve, of course, for this 2024 that looks a bit disturbing, though, in what the system is trying to project on us. So today we're going to be discussing, of course, the latest developments in Chinese warfare that also coincide with the release of a movie called, a movie produced, by the way, by the Obamas, called Leave the World Behind, that a lot of people have been talking about. So I think we have a great show ahead. And of course,
Absolutely.
we're going to be citing also some elements from my books for it.
Well, your book is amazing. I've actually got the number 9 now as well. Unfortunately, I can't get the hardcover here in South Africa yet, so I've got it on Kindle. But definitely looking forward to getting the hardcover. I always like paperback. But it's such an interesting time, Leo. As you say, that's coinciding with your book. And I want to definitely, on our future shows, go back to some of the elements in your book as well, the stuff I've been reading. But today, this is a fantastic show because I think I've been looking into this Leave the World Behind movie, especially for the last week or so, which is super, super interesting, and how it coincides with the Chinese warfare, right? And there's it just seems like so much of this predictive programming, just like the predictive programming for the pandemic happened, right? It just seems like this is the next level of predictive programming that they're dishing out to us right now. But anyway, over to you. I'd love to hear what you have to say about this.
Well, yeah, I mean, predictive programming, of course, and also, like you said, like it's been happening in the past from Netflix with the pandemic that was announced by a huge documentary by the Bill Gates Foundation that was kind of warning us, between brackets, just at the start of all that. But of course, we have then nowadays a development which is even more disturbing, because here we have a film based on a novel that came out in 2020, so in the year that the pandemic unveiled on the world. And this film, based on this novel called Leave the World Behind, by a director, Sam Esmail, who has though worked alongside for the script with both Barack and Michelle Obama. Now, we know that they are the executive producers of this film, but it's rather unusual for an executive producer to be so present in the script. So this is something that was also outlined by the film director himself, that of course, was feeling a bit wary about working with a former president, but also used the former president for advice. But it's not only a question of advice here. It seems like they are projecting something on us. And so it's important to understand when we talk about predictive programming, for many years, there has always been this, this whole thing ditched in the realm of conspiracy theorists, and so it's never been really taken seriously. However, it's a subject that, of course, I've cited also in volume 8 of my Confessions, in which, by the way, if you remember, in volume 8 of my Confession, I also talk about psychotropic weapons. I talk about electromagnetic weapons. Yes. I talk about basically that kind of weapon that was allegedly used also against some embassies, like, for example, the one in Cuba, the American embassy in Cuba, that led to a lot of people feeling sick. And that is something that is also cited within the movie itself. And in volume 8, I brought some interesting documentation also to support this whole thing that there is this range of weapons available also to the Chinese, possibly, because one thing that we can, I mean, predictive programming is a subtle form of psychological conditioning, but there is nothing really subtle about this film because it's pretty blatant, it's pretty open. Now, I've analyzed it and I watched it from the beginning to the end various times to be able to analyze it and formalize also an article, which I will be publishing in the coming hours on my website, leozagami.com. And of course, you know, we are all familiar with the predictive programming of cartoons like The Simpsons or other films that have in some way projected us in a dark future. Even in the 70s, dystopian movies, Soylent Green, for example, it's an excellent example. But here we are in a situation in which not so long ago, if you remember, the Klaus Schwab Foundation, the organization, the World Economic Forum, to be more precise, this think tank that I have analyzed very much, as you know, in volume 7 of my Confessions, in which I also talk about this subject, which is basically the cyber attacks warning that was like presented, you know, like a possible thing for the future. So the fact that the cyber attack also has a leading role within this film, the possibility of a cyber attack that really changes everything, as well as weapons that are really weird, that we don't really understand. Of course, we understand there is, at the end of the film, the radioactivity, but then we also understand there is other kind of weapons that, you know, this mysterious noise that comes into the few of the scenes of this film that at one point generates sickness, of course, one of the sons of one of the protagonists. Then, of course, we have, you know, it is an Obama-produced film, so we have to have all the woke elements into it. So there has to be the race war element to it, because that's part of what Obama likes to push. So we have, of course, this father and daughter who arrive in a home that they own, that they, of course, have probably Airbnb or something like that, rented out. And these people suddenly, you know, see this Afro-Americans, and they seemingly are quite libtards themselves. I mean, but libtards are very good in preaching outwards their inclusivity, their fact that they love all races and all that. But as long as they don't knock at your door, because at that point they become the worst racists in the book. I mean, let's also remember and be honest about it. The KKK was founded by the Democratic Party. So, I mean, it's like, it's in
exactly.
It's in the
exactly.
DNA. So in this film, the black protagonist, we can assume, has a lot of elements of Barack Obama in the way that he talks about certain things, and with knowledge, because apparently he's involved to some extent with the military-industrial complex, or at least he has somebody he knows in this situation. Why we are talking about China? Because China is, of course, within the last part of the film, indicated as one of the possible candidates who has started this war, but not the one that is going to end up this war. This is another important thing, that it seems like the war gets started from enemies from outside, but then it triggers a civil war from within. That is something that it's probably to come, meaning that at one point the film ends up really without an ending, and so everybody is kind of left wondering what's going to happen here. Now,
yeah, right.
As the
Exactly.
predictive programming increases for 2024, here we are with another film that is going to come out in the spring of 2024, which is called Civil War, that addresses directly the subject that might be the follow-up or an hypothetical follow-up of.
So, is there? Are you saying there's a movie on its way out called Civil War?
Civil War is going to come out this spring. It is a movie basically that depicts a possible scenario that we hope never to see, but it is an upcoming action war film. That's how it's described. It is scheduled to be released in April 26, 2024. Now, I don't know in which format or how, probably on Netflix, as A24 is the producer and the company often works for Netflix. But it is a scenario in the near future in which a team of journalists travels across the United States during what seems to be a rapidly escalating civil war, in which the government itself starts even bombing his citizens in some states that rebel in a way to the Union. It is a scenario that, of course, everybody's scared of, but it is now a possible scenario. You see, I live here in America since 2019. When I came in 2019, it was my fourth time in America. I had been visiting the United States since the Reagan era, thanks to my grandmother, who used to live in New York. And so I visited America for the first time in 1982. Then the second time in 2008. Basically, we were, of course, at the dawn of the Obama era, and we had the great economic crash and all that. I then came back in 2014, in early 2014, and that's when I started to see also the changes that, of course, the Obama era implemented in the worst sense. So America started to change. America started to have a lot more homeless. America started to become a lot more apocalyptic. And when I returned in 2019 and I went to LA, and that was my last time in LA, I lived 2 hours from LA, but I never go there because it was sincerely disappointing to see that city, which I visited, full of encampments, homeless people, that it is becoming some kind of third world city. So I don't even go close to it. And I say that very, very openly also to my friends who often invite me there. Like, for example, New Year's Eve, you want to go to, do you want to get your car stolen? Do you want to get mugged? Do you want to get shot? Well, no worries. Just go to LA. So I'm staying safe here in the Coachella Valley. But going back to the movie, you see, what is the message here? Because, we're talking about predictive programming. So what are they programming here? What are they trying to implement? And also, why is the People's Republic of China moving towards the implementations of tactics which explore the potential artificial intelligence in controlling public opinion, of course, because they are developing the ultimate quantum computer. And this is another thing that I would like to say to other people who are watching. The books of Leo Zagami are rather prophetic. And yesterday morning, I tuned in on the radio and I was listening to Dan Bongino, who for a whole hour went on about the danger of quantum computing. And he said, imagine now that China is going to develop this. We're going to be screwed on bank accounts and all. Well, I've been saying that from the beginning. And of course, in this book, it actually explains why the quantum prince of darkness, we are at the dawn of this apocalyptic scenario that is, and like I said before, this book can be read without reading all the other books. But if you want to have really a full-on idea, you should have this trilogy, let's say, of the Cyber Satan, which is basically volume 6.66, 7, and 9, because they explore everything that we have been discussing. And if you remember, volume 7 as well as volume 9 talks about also going off the grid to avoid the dependency on a system. And that is another subject that it's brought around in this movie. Now, a lot of people say, okay, Dan Bongino is part of the system. Yeah, it's part of the system, but he was a Secret Service member. He worked for the Clintons, for example, even when he, just as a job. He was, I think, in the police or something, and then he passed into the Secret Service, maybe with FBI, and then went. But he had a career. Of course, he's part of the system. He's on every radio station, and when you are syndicated, you are obviously part of the system. Having said that, he has also invested, I think, his own money on a project like Rumble. He has left Fox to not be any longer involved with the Fox regime, because Fox was a regime for Tucker Carlson, but also for everybody else who is there. We see Fox as these conservatives that, seem to like the ideas that we like, but then in the end, they are always they're always pushing the narrative.
Good cop, bad cop, right? Isn't Fox sort of good cop?
They went on for a year and for 2 years on almost with this war in Ukraine, supporting it, which is a complete nonsense. And the only one who was really challenging that kind of narrative was either Tucker Carlson or either Bongino. But in any case, without losing ourselves into that, is even Bongino, when he talked about this film, and it was quite coincidental because, I had already the idea of discussing it with you. I had already the idea of writing this article. And then I see Bongino also mentioning and demanding to himself, why are the Obamas producing this? If it's not to launch a message that in a way is preparing the scenario for what is to come, or is maybe a threat here. I want to add this to what Bongino said. I think it's a threat. It's a threat. It's a veiled threat. Producing a movie that basically depicts what might be the possible scenario in case Donald J. Trump is elected, in case the patriots get what they want. And at that point, China, Russia, every single nation, North Korea, which is now back, with Kim Jong-un wants to be back into the game, so he's giving us his bullshit. He does his, New Year's Eve is famous for his fireworks. Kim Jong-un likes to fire some missiles and start with his threats all over. Every year it's a kind of redundant theme. But having said that, it is true that he's part of an alliance. I mean, it's quite possible that he will be in the BRICS scenario, which is the BRICS, as you know, is all these countries that, including South Africa, seem to be rising out of the,
Russia,
out of the influence.
All part of Russia. Yeah, all part of the Russia.
China and Russia, of course. The Sino-Russian world order, which I depicted since volume 7. Now, it's important then that we understand why did he do it? So why was he so present in the script? Because he had, of course, this book, Obama, in his reading list for 2020 when it came out, 2021, whatever. But then he, of course, worked on the movie script, making it even more, a threat, a veiled threat here. Because that's the real message here. The message is, okay, no problem. Elect, if you elect Trump, if we don't manage to stop Trump, this is what's going to happen. Because who is behind Barack Obama? China, Russia, Iran. These are all friends of Barack Hussein Obama. So Barack Hussein Obama, with his wife, Michelle Obama, who is a possible future candidate for the Democratic Party, that's for sure. Maybe not in this moment, but maybe in the future. That is their idea, is to present a movie in which they are sending this veiled threat. And the character, the black character in the movie is obviously talking like an Obama. And so we need to interpret him as an Obama. I suggest you watch this movie with a critical mindset. We don't tend to, at least in my household, we don't tend to take everything that either the TV or the cinema proposes as truth. We are very critical. In fact, the first person in this household who watched this movie was actually my wife, wasn't me. And I said, is it really worth watching it? And she said, no, absolutely, because then when she understood it's produced by the Obamas, there must be something to it.
Yeah.
So the unfolding cyber attacks paralyzes the electronic devices. We have havoc in the cities and the roads. We have this crazy scene in which Elon Musk's car go crazy, which is also another
I was
thing.
going to speak about that.
Yeah.
Isn't this crazy? Because, I mean, if you think about that with the whole Elon Musk thing, I mean, Elon Musk was also, I mean, I have to compare that to Donald Trump as well, because before Donald Trump became president, right, he was very much part of the boys club, right? They liked him. He was like, he was one of the boys, right? Until he started obviously getting into politics.
Here he is.
We are going to drain the swamp in Washington, D.C.
we had a fun moment here.
I love that. Leo. Of course you would have something.
That was one of my Christmas presents.
That's good. Drain that swamp. I'm telling you, that swamp is dirty, it's deep, and it's very, very stinky. That is for sure.
Absolutely.
But and now we're looking at Elon Musk.
It's possible to drain out of that swamp the connection with the military-industrial complex. So let's be honest.
But they go together, exactly. It's like the shadow government and the shadow military are all hand in hand, in my opinion, because when the more we learn about the shadow government, the more we understand that the shadow military or the sovereign military is working hand in hand. I mean, what happens behind the scene with the sovereign military is very different to what happens. The guys that you're seeing are being deployed to protect the civilians and what have you, But regarding Elon Musk, looking at that, because I mean, I haven't seen the movie myself, but they're talking about these cars that now become self-driving, and it's really creating these Tesla cars in a very, very negative way.
I guess that portraying Tesla in a negative way today, in which Elon Musk is closer than ever to the international right, because he was recently in Rome participating with Giorgia Meloni to the Fratelli d'Italia da Treo festival, which had also Sunak, from the Prime Minister of Britain, involved, and all the rest. So it was an important event at Treo, and Elon Musk participated. And talked about the fact that Italians need to make more children. And basically, he arrived there with his child, portraying the part of the guy who says, "Oh well, we should make more children." The problem here is if we need to buy your sorry if I say this, your fucking cars, we will never be able to have children because they cost so much, they're so expensive that we will never be able to even have one child. So the fact that in the West we have this great hypocrisy, we have castrated the man more and more with all this LGBTQ BS propaganda, woke, castrating the mind of transforming them into something. All this, of course, is disturbing, and it's of course disturbing, but it is reflected also in the movie that is produced by the Obamas, because we see that in reality, the self-proclaimed libtards, because that's what they are, they really go in a state of panic when when the shit hits the fan. They don't know what to do. They just simply the people who instead seem to have their they are focused on is the people who are the potential info warriors, the people who are basically the average Alex Jones crowd, the people who in this case are more awakened and more ready to what is about to happen in America. So in the film Civil War, which I only saw the trailer because of course it's not out yet, and I advise you to see the trailer, there is a scene in which at one point there is these two Americans, which this militia guys pointing them the guns, and they say, "We are Americans." And he says, "What kind of Americans?" Because you see, there is the kind which is the libtard, the guy that doesn't come out of the city, and if he comes out of the city, goes to an Airbnb thinking he owns the world, and of course with all his bullshit woke ideas in his head. Well, those people, of course, even in the representation of the Leave the World Behind film on Netflix, which is for me the flagship of Satan. I mean, it's like
totally. I mean, absolutely. It is really the as you say, the libtards way. Yeah, totally. They're pushing their propaganda through Netflix big time. I fully agree with that. Yeah,
absolutely.
Crazy.
So when I wrote in volume 9 of my Confessions that basically about 39% of US adults already believe that humanity is living in the end times and think we are worthy of a divine retribution rather than the start of a futuristic golden age, which is promised by people like Klaus Schwab and the elite, which wants to push these smart cities that ultimately will be a way to contain the human beings that will survive the nuclear apocalypse. This is unfortunate, because this is unfortunate that we have to see all this. And we also see, I mean, a lot of people have said there will not be a civil war because we have seen in the last few years since what happened on the 6th of January 2021, what happened in Capitol Hill, which wasn't, of course, an insurrection. It was little more than a joke. I mean, if people think that's an insurrection, I mean, I laughed at it. I mean, I remember I had a guy who was there in front of me and said, they're shooting at us with pellets. So what should we do? Should we go in? I said, get the heck out of there. Don't go even close to it. Just leave that place. I suggested to all my friends to not even go on that day, including Alex Jones, and including the guys at InfoWars. But of course, nobody listened to me. But in any case, I'm here now as the person who has predicted everything, but still people are not believing me. They are not taking serious this whole thing. They take the books I publish as an entertainment. No, it's not entertainment.
Right.
These are manuals. These are manuals for surviving the apocalypse and for also laying the foundation of a new civilization that is aware. And I think that what we have seen in 2023 with the final realization, even by the most idiot of the idiots, that the war in Ukraine is a complete joke and a farce and a lie, which is what I have, as you know, described in this book as a mountain of lies, in a whole chapter dedicated to how even the Ukrainian identity was artificially created in the last 2 centuries by the Illuminati and the biosecret societies, and how they are simply a borderland between the West and Russia and should be left alone. Instead, they went on. They went on, and they are going on until, in the end, now the finances are finished. Everybody's fed up of, sponsoring a guy who buys a couple of yachts with his money. Zelensky is a crook. He's a criminal.
Yeah, he is.
He's a cocaine addict who should be arrested. Yeah. Instead, we are fighting this hypothetical war with Russia, which is, of course, part of the game because they're all in it, and it's part of the Great Reset, because in the end, this war is bringing us, of course, to a complete economic collapse. We had this never-ending inflation. Now, they are kind of here in the US, in some states, not in California, lowering down the prices of gas and trying to lower a little bit the effects of this inflation. But it is not it is only for propaganda reasons, because you have an idiot like Joe Biden who needs to be reelected. Now, anybody who wants to elect a guy who is half brain dead, it is, of course, a criminal in my mind. I think that those people who will elect, and they will probably do it because, I can't take the tweets of Donald J. Trump or whatever bullshit they will. Well, in that case, they are criminals and they are working for the destruction of the United States of America, because you are voting a guy who is a puppet in the hands of Barack Hussein Obama. So Barack Obama is the real president of the United States. He produces a movie, and this movie is telling us what they're gonna do to us, basically, if we don't elect him again. I mean, this is insane. This is really insane.
I fully agree with that. And it's the whole, you were talking about China. And I truly believe that China is behind the whole emasculation of the is it the Gen Z? We say Z, you guys say Z, or whatever it is, popular, generation in America now, this whole transgenderism, whatever it is. Because in the meantime, what's been happening while China has really been TikToking America and really dumbing the Americans down with money and ridiculous things.
China is very clever. They give us TikTok and they prohibit TikTok for their own people. They give us basically fentanyl, and of course it's super prohibited to even smoke a joint in China. They will arrest you and send you probably to I don't know where. So the thing is that we are taking everything as we don't understand or don't want to understand the connections. And we have also a Mexican president who himself should be declared war on because of the way that is so corrupt. His cartels, and the Chinese are just one thing. And if there was, I know that we might have Donald J. Trump again. And Donald J. Trump is great because Donald J. Trump is America first, puts the borders and say that's it. But if there was an American president who really wants to do things here in America, the first thing would be to declare war to Mexico and Canada. And the people will say, why? Because they're enemies of the way of life of America, and they are working behind the scenes with China to sabotage the American way. So there is no point in being nicey with Canada or Mexico. These countries need to be declared war on if America had the balls to do that. But to have the balls, we have to have somebody who is not obviously ready to drain the swamp for real. Because in this drainage of the swamp, there is always, unfortunately, a compromise that needs to be done, and it's usually done with the military-industrial complex. Now, we have seen in 2023 also the birth of another theater of war, a theater of war which is developing, is ongoing as we talk in the Middle East. Since the 7th of October, a lot of people have said, Leo, you should support the Palestinians. Now, I'm really, here is something that I know I will be controversial, and I know a lot of people in your show probably not agree with me, but I can never, ever support the Palestinians or the Palestinian cause, because they are born out of ultimate evil that has damaged me personally and my family, because my son is still kidnapped by those fuckers. Since 2008, I haven't seen him. So for me, there is no repacification with Islam. And anybody who is in line with that is obviously evil. So it's obvious there's no just war here. We know that there is no just war. We know that this war could be conducted in a different way, because, of course, going in and killing a lot of civilians, and it's something that maybe could be in some way avoided, but we have to understand Hamas is a product of evil, and you have to eradicate it. So I know that this might be a not popular line of conduct from me, and people will be saying, oh, well, Leo should side with the Palestinians. But remember, guys, I can't side with the enemy. And for that reason, I'm preparing a book in 2024 that I hope, inshallah, as they say in the Middle East,
inshallah,
if God wants, it will come out, which is going to be talking about the truth about Islam, Islamic Freemasonry, the creation of jihadi, of Salafism, jihadism, and all that. And it's going to reveal you all the sick truths of what is going on. The Sabbatean Frankists basically have created this whole thing. They control the Muslim countries, as well as they control really Israel, because in the end, Benjamin Netanyahu is being simply used. We know that the present president of Israel himself is a Sabbatean Frankist and is a leftist idiot. So there is no possibility in war to be clement. When you go in 7th of October and take on those hostages, you can never condone that. And going around, peace, peace, like we do in the West, peace, peace, is naive, is idiotic, and there is people there who are still in those tunnels, still. So, yes, thousands of people in the meantime have been killed. But I want to make an example here from ancient times, okay? Because in ancient times, things like this happened all the time. You know, there were cities that were looted, women that were taken, raped. There was all kinds of scenarios that basically brought conflict. But definitely, if you come into my home, you take my wife, you rape my daughter, I will come there, I will kill and destroy all your city, and I will raid it to the ground. So what is happening now, regardless of your hypocrisy, regardless of your pity-minded 2023 woke mind, because even the people who are conservatives, they are woke. They're not ready. The thing here about Obama's film and the future film that is coming out next year, Civil War, these are they are hypotheses, they are conjectures. But the reality is that America here is not ready to give up on their wealth that they have acquired and is not ready to fight for their ideas. I'm ready to die for my ideas. I'm ready to leave my country in Italy with my family, to not get to continue my battle here, leaving everything, giving up everything I had, giving even up properties for free, my car, everything, and giving all that for free because of what I believe. Today, in 2023, the majority of people stand in front of the TV or in front of their computer, and they're all a bunch of laptop lions. But when it comes to fighting a war, well, that is a war, and you need to fight it. Not with the words, but with the facts. So are they really ready, these patriots, to fight, or they will do the little theater they did, the pathetic little theater of the 6th of January? Because that was a pathetic little theater that was, of course, then used by the FBI that laid down the trap for them with Nancy Pelosi and the Capitol Hill police. And now, to this day, you know, there is people that are being raided every day, arrested. Oh, you participated to this January 6th. You are an insurrectionist. Or Trump is being taken today. Maine has taken off Trump out of the taken off. So I can't participate as a you know, in the primaries because some governor of some libtard state. If you think about it, Stephen King only talks about Maine and Colorado in his horror books, and they are the most cursed states of the whole. I remember when the Grand Lodge of Maine made a whole page against me back in 2008. Imagine. Ed King from the Grand Lodge of Maine. You can still find it probably. He had this website called Masonic Info, I think it was called. And basically, they attacked me. And everything they said was completely wrong. And I remember recently there was actually a Freemason who contacted me and said, you see how that idiot and his article against you and thing kind of didn't really age very well. And in fact, it didn't. But this, just to remind the people, Maine is a hellhole just like Colorado. These two states should be completely reprogrammed mentally because there must be something really wrong. Gavin Newsom was more intelligent. Gavin Newsom knows here in California that the 50% of California now is gaining back momentum. The Republicans are gaining back momentum. Right. When Trump came to visit here in California, they were like treating him like a rock star everywhere in LA. There were crowds and stuff. When Joe Biden comes, nobody even knows where he is. And the guy goes in front of, is pathetic. But Trump here in California, so Newsom said, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to take his name off. But it's a completely, I think it's completely unconstitutional. It's completely undemocratic. I hope that the Supreme Court now arrives and says, this is ridiculous. You just, you know, because like Newsom said, you have to fight your battle, but with the elections, not with the judiciary.
Right.
This country, unfortunately, in the last few years, since the arrival of Joe Biden, has become a third world banana republic in which there is a DOJ, a Department of Justice, used as with the FBI as the old Stasi of Eastern Germany, where people are persecuted and made political prisoners, even for an idiotic thing like January 6th, because I think that January 6th was a pathetic, idiotic show of nonsense after all. It wasn't anything more. There was no possibility of an insurrection. What you gonna insurrect in a place when the police was basically lining the people, getting, please come in and opening. Okay, this is the, there was like guys going around like it was a museum exhibit. Come on, it's ridiculous. So there was a person killed, one for sure. And it was killed by an Afro-American, and it was an American patriot who was a former military. That is very sad, and that is very unjust. But having said that, we are now basically approaching 2024. There is a lot of talk of civil war, of course, in America. But in the reality of things, like I said, there is very few people, apart from maybe some secluded individuals in some states, which I have addressed in my books, by the way, in volume 7 in particular, who are trying to build up a different reality in case of a societal collapse. And definitely they will be more ready than others. Okay, they will be more ready than others. And I suggest that you take the advice of these people and you start to think of a reality which doesn't include anything smart, anything connected to the grid, to the AI, because the AI is the ultimate weapon. One of these weapons we saw in the movies, like electromagnetic energy, the soft kill radio waves. But then we have, of course, the cyber attack. A cyber attack can be also moved by a very powerful quantum computer. A quantum computer of the ultimate generation can reason in a way that makes the computers we are using obsolete. And so the moment in which a quantum computer it's used, for example, by China, who is very ambitious, China, they are on a collision course with the US. They want to become the top global powerhouse. It's obvious that President Xi Jinping is now tired of Western influence. This is
he's saying that.
It's pretty obvious. He's saying that. And so, unfortunately, like Gina Raimondo, the U.S. Commerce Secretary, said recently, she said the People's Republic of China is choosing to use these technologies, very advanced technologies, to pursue control, quote, over its people and its repression of members of ethnic and religious minority groups. We cannot allow U.S. commodities, technologies, and software that support medical science and biotechnical innovation to be diverted towards uses contrary to U.S. national security. But the problem here is that basically California has just welcomed Xi Jinping like he was a star in San Francisco.
But Leo, isn't this interesting, though, is that the same time that this movie, this Leave the World Behind, the same time this movie is launched, there's a cyber attack on America and the US from China. But what I was researching is that these attacks from China have been happening for a year already in the US. And I'm talking about
these attacks, though, to be sincere, they are still a minor form of warfare compared to the ultimate form of warfare that could be moved by a
what they're saying is it's the Texas power grid. I know that was one that was attacked. They're talking about plus minus 24 critical services entities. Now, I'm not quite sure exactly what they were. I did try and find out what that was. But isn't it interesting that these attacks are being launched, or shall I say spoken about, the same time that the movie is actually being launched, because the movie is really all about blackouts and the world collapse.
Yes, because what happens in the movie is that because of the blackouts, because of the cyber attacks, there is basically, you know, there will be probably nuclear plants that will melt down, that will reach a moment in which they will. So the massive explosions that apparently are, you know, are discussed in the actual movie. I think they talk about the Con Edison plant in New York City that explodes, leaving millions in the darkness at one point. But why it explodes? Because of a cyber attack. Now, we know that there has been more than one evidence. Back in the days of the Fukushima accident, there was people who were talking about a virus that might have, of course, there was a terrible earthquake followed by what happened later on, and the wave that submerged the whole plant. But it's not only that. Apparently, the nuclear plant was in some way deactivated through a virus. They discussed that back in the days already.
Yes.
But so this is something of a possibility. You can deactivate, you can basically push then the nuclear plant. And that's why all this talk about the nuclear plants again in the electric car era is completely demented. Because if you are creating nuclear plants, you're giving the AI that one day might go against us. And here we go back to that other film that, if you remember, I don't know if I discussed with you, but I wrote an article about on leozagami.com some time ago, and now it's actually available on Hulu, which is The Creator, which is a film about the AI and the transhumans declaring war on humanity. And it starts really with this nuclear explosion of LA. And so what are we doing here? We are basically putting ourselves in the hands of cyber Satan, because at that point, it's not only about the Tesla cars moving against you like in the film. It's about everything. It's about...
Isn't this... But wouldn't it also be part of the plan then? Because when all these cyber attacks from China are happening, for example, that would then be the excuse of Klaus Schwab and his connections and his buddies, right? The World Economic Forum. To actually, now we've been hearing for a long time that there's going to be a blackout on the internet, whether it's a day, a week, 10 days, whatever it might be. So they would then use these cyber attacks as an excuse to shut the internet down, right? To give us a blackout and then tell us.
I think, Chantel, that if something like that's happened and we start having nuclear explosions, or even an attack by this new technology, which apparently it's advanced mind technology that sends you to sleep, entire populations to sleep.
Yeah, for sure.
That the problem will be our connections to the internet. I don't think so. I think that would be the least of our worries.
But they would use that to bring in a whole new surveillance system. That's what I'm thinking. So they would then use that as an excuse when they bring in this whole new system again and they switch us on 10 days later or a week later. It's a whole new surveillance system. So that's what I'm saying, is like, would that not be what could be part of the order of the day?
There's an interesting element here in the movie that we've been discussing today, produced by the Obamas. The fact that at one point the black protagonist goes to this neighbor, which apparently was some kind of dude from the military industrial company who had, I think, a satellite phone. And he picks up the satellite phone, and which is charged, and he tries to use it, and the phone doesn't work. Meaning that the ultimate resource, usually in this case, is always supposed to be the satellite phone. But the satellite grid apparently is also being sabotaged. So that is also a very interesting element, let's say, in the whole narrative of the film. As well as what I said at the beginning, it's not about then the external enemy anymore. After the cyber attack, and after, of course, it creates problems with the nuclear plants and everything else. And of course, there will be all kinds of problems. And there is also these sounds and all kinds of probably weapons that are used that are probably the advanced mind control weapons that we've been talking about from China. Well, at that point, there is though the hint that is given right at the end of the film by the African American protagonist. He says clearly, they have started this, but then it's from us that this whole thing, the end of America will then come from within, because the moment in which we take off the electricity, we create basically the civil war.
Yeah, absolutely.
America is very weak at the moment because of who stands in the White House, of the demented values that have been pushed in the CIA, in the military industrial complex. I mean, recruiting videos with the transgender thing, all kinds of queer fantasies about becoming a CIA agent, so kinds of, this is nonsense. And they are laughing at us. People are laughing at us. There is the secret services, the intelligence services of places like Russia, China says, what bunch of idiots. So the fact is that there is obviously an element that is destroying America from within. And America, like rightly somebody saying in the chat, is like Rome at this point. Rome in the last phase of the empire. The phase that saw the barbarians arriving at the door, the ones that in the end will break and will arrive all the way to Rome and will threaten even the life of the Pope. And that is basically what we are seeing here, is the decline of an empire. And it's sad because in the last period of the Roman Empire, there was the same kind of decadence. There was the same pedophiles all over the place. Disgusting things that were happening in the decline of the Roman Empire. And Rome, in the end, ended up being what is today, an irrelevant city that is relevant only because of the Vatican that sits at its center, which has some relevance, of course, and still has some relevance, unfortunately. But apart from that, Rome has no geopolitical influence, and actually after the end of the Cold War is now the most irrelevant place on earth. So the fact that today I saw Elon Musk all huggy and friendly with the Italian Prime Minister, they might run off together soon, and this was promoted. I think that this whole thing is ridiculous, and I think that maybe Elon Musk has a fantasy of what ancient Rome was. He also proclaimed he would like to fight in the Colosseum, Mark Zuckerberg, all this BS. But apart from all his fantasies, the reality of it is that today is rather what they used to call the third Rome, Moscow, which is dictating the shots here with Beijing. Rome is irrelevant. Rome has created the Club of Rome, which is of course relevant because unfortunately has now founded a series of clubs all over the world. They have inspired with their MIT research the World Economic Forum. So Rome is still relevant for the occult elite. The Club of Rome is still relevant, but like I said, politically irrelevant. But when it comes down to the MIT, the research that was conducted by the Club of Rome, what Klaus Schwab has done, what Harari has been predicting and talking about, especially, you saw Noel Harari very active in the first period of the Hamas attack against Israel. Do you see him anymore? No. He's nowhere to be seen. He suddenly disappears. When suddenly everybody is kind of saying, well, Israel is the new Nazis, Israel is this, Israel is that, Harari has disappeared because it's not fashionable, I guess, to defend the Israeli cause in this moment. But Israel itself is fighting from within a war because, like we have discussed in the past, Israel is a place that has been founded on compromises, unfortunately. And it's not the fault of the Israel people or the Jewish people. That's why they are the victims, the primal victims of the European powers that push them towards Israel. I'm talking about England, Great Britain, first responsible. They were responsible with France to the Sykes-Picot Agreement. Then there was the Balfour the Declaration. This is not stuff that was created. There wasn't any Israel. There wasn't any Jewish nation. They create, and then there was the Holocaust. So the Germans, and this fight between the Germans and Great Britain generated 2 wars. 2.
Exactly.
Okay, so now we are at the Third World War. Great Britain plays the part. Oh, we don't have anything to do with it. Oh, we have King Charles. Oh, he wants peace. He wants to do a one-world religion. I saw the Christmas message of King Charles. Did you see it?
Probably. Actually didn't. Yeah.
Now, it's in a tradition in my family, as we are also related, to see the Christmas message of King Charles. So it's like, but usually before he was the Queen, of course. So now this is the first time actually after he was properly crowned. So, but it is a tradition to see, because we are half English and we are related, to watch this speech. So I watched it, and I watched it on Christmas Day, and I was like, and my mother was like, "Oh, it was such a beautiful speech, darling. Oh, it was all about peace." And it was all about hypocrisy, how all the religions are basically saying the same thing. And suddenly he starts talking really like the future Antichrist. Now, we have already discussed in the past in my books, in volume 8, especially the whole chapter about either him or William could be perfect candidates. But he actually said that the Christmas message is a message that we found also in other religions, this, that, and all the other. In a way, as a head of the Anglican Church, he has definitely become more and more inclined instead to facilitate the meeting of all religions in one, which is, as you know, the plan for the future Antichrist, the one world religion.
Right.
So
absolutely, yes.
So King Charles' speech this year was a complete anti-Christian farce. That's what it was. Of course, you know, if one is naive and wants to take it as a message of peace, we can take it as a message of peace. You know, showing also, you know, how he cares about the third world country here, there, and everywhere, when we know that all the ex-colonies have been all frauded left, right, and center.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Please don't even talk to me about Charles in Africa, because him and his sons are just despicable. Yeah, they are despicable. They are disgusting.
Disgusting. Yeah. So here we are in front of this massive hypocrisy. We know also that, you know, there's 2 bodies here that are calling the Great Reset shots: King Charles and Klaus Schwab. So
yeah, so hand in hand.
Hand in hand. So, and of course, then let's go back to China, because China is the place where the son of Klaus Schwab lives, and where he has one of his most important offices in Beijing. People tend to not know this connection that brings Klaus Schwab directly into the elite of the CCCP. But the CCCP vision for what they call a neurostrike, it encompasses what they call a, between brackets, holistic approach, which is basically part of an asymmetric warfare strategy, which basically wants to push to the edge the adversaries, actually over the edge, particularly the United States, which is, of course, perceived as a threat in the Indo-Pacific region. And you saw the last few days, it's been very clear. China is saying to the US, back off, back off, back off. That means that they're about to do something. And the fact that actually Kim Jong-un, this time, I mean, he has always given these threats, but the fact that this time his threat is accompanied by his trip to Russia, the fact that him, you know, now he gets the weapons, he gets everything. He you know, people say that, of course, when now there is an ongoing meeting of the Politburo, whatever the Supreme Council of his communist elite there in North Korea. Did you see Kim Jong-un talking to these people, and the way it was, there were all these old ladies crying, and all the people. But one thing I noticed, there was a difference this year in this communist hellhole of North Korea. There was a difference. And I tell you the difference, and nobody has noticed. Anyone, nobody. Bunch of idiots, journalists. But it's very visible. For the first time, all the members who were there in front of Kim Jong-un, and the ones also included next to him, were actually dressed with different ties. They all had, and they all were kind of dressed up with suits, very elegant from Europe. You could see the tailored, but also with different ties, something that would never happen in a communist country. Everything was like all gray, all dressed the same, all.
Wow.
Go and check the meeting that just started of Kim Jong-un, and you will see this thing. It's like normalizing, making it. Of course, everybody was like clapping their hands, and everybody was lifting the hand when there was a question, saying, you agree? Of course, they all agree, because if you don't agree, you end up probably killed after 10 minutes. But there was this difference that makes you understand the way, and this probably was a touch that was advised to him. It's everything is carefully crafted around these occasions, especially with Kim Jong-un that likes to parade missiles, things, people, and all these things. It's all orchestrated and carefully arranged. So the fact that they were all with nice different ties, all elegant, all looking like proper, I was like impressed. And I was impressed, and I think that it's not coincidental of him about to, become part of this Sino-Russian New World Order even further. So North Korea, it's basically, I remember when I used to go to Russia, they always told me that I had a friend who used to go there to North Korea sometimes. He said, listen, Leo, you can take a train here from Moscow and arrive directly in North Korea. I was like, what? So there has always been a close link with North Korea since the Soviet Union times, and then even with the Russian Federation. Now this link will benefit, because here we're talking about all these countries that are gathering up against one country with an old folk who doesn't even know how to clean his butt. And this is really dramatic. We have had 2023, that just like 2022, has been filled up with lies by the British press in particular on Vladimir Putin till the very end. Vladimir Putin is sick. Vladimir Putin is hanging. Vladimir Putin is about to die. Vladimir Putin has cancer. Vladimir Putin is about to lose his power tomorrow morning through an hypothetical coup. BS! We know that in war, the first victim is truth, but they have exaggerated with their bullshit. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's just unbelievable. I mean, nowadays we see Putin going around looking tranquil, walking, shaking hands, doing everything. And then we have this guy, Biden, where do I have to go?
Well, it's obvious Biden is a complete farce. I mean, the guy's a joke. It's not even the real Biden anyway. I mean, if you're looking at pictures of Joe Biden a few years back and this Biden, their ears are completely different. I mean, it's definitely not even the real Biden. And I mean, and as you say, it's probably Obama that's ruling from behind anyway, and has for a very long time. And that's quite scary, actually. Most definitely. So
yes,
wow.
Yes, absolutely. And we know that these people are completely corrupt. I mean, the Biden family corruption goes directly to China, to Russia, taking money from these countries. There was a lot of talk about the corruption, and at one point, Hunter Biden even had the courage to go in front of the cameras and denounce. I mean, you have to have some courage. The guy has spent $600,000 on prostitutes, $200,000 only on porn videos, millions on drugs, and he has the courage to open his mouth
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's just
Yeah.
like beyond. So, of course, I hope and I pray that 2024 is a great year. It's a great year that sees the rise of a new America with Trump back in the presidency. If at that point the rest of the world decides to declare war, and in a scenario like we've seen in the film that we have been discussing today, well, so be it. But we will be dying fighting and not in a cage. So
Right.
this is about fighting a war for the survival of mankind as a species, because we know that their intention is to transform us and to cage us more and more and to link us with the machine and then make us totally dependent on this transhumanism thing, which is coming in more and more. So I hope
you know what I wanted to say actually about the Chinese as well is, while they've been emasculating the American youth for the last 20, 30 years, right? They've actually been taking injections, right, of testosterone or whatever it is. So in the last 20 to 30 years, the average Chinese male is now 2 to 3 inches taller than what he used to be. So while they've now been emasculating the Americans, they've actually been strengthening the Chinese.
I'll tell you another thing that you might not know, but I don't know if you want to know, because it's really terrible, but they have been taking male members, the male member, the penis of African people, and bringing them in China to put them on Chinese dudes who probably have a small penis. That I know it sounds, but this has happened.
No, it doesn't sound weird at all. It makes a lot of sense. And that actually, you know, when we're looking at our kids and where they're being trafficked to, and again, it's one of these things that makes a lot of sense, because the Chinese are obsessed with the penis. This is one of the big reasons our rhino has been extinct.
Yeah, because they have all those Chinese medicine things, which is completely outrageous. Yeah,
it is outrageous. So I mean, Africa has been under siege for a long time. You know, in terms of you know, when it's come to the Chinese. I mean, they've completely taken over Africa. They really have. The Chinese have completely. I mean, in the early 70s and stuff, it was the Russians, and for some reason, the Russians, I'm not sure what the reason was, but the Russians, because when you're looking at South African politics, right?
The reason is that they had an internal crisis that led to the end of the Soviet Union. I mean, they had their own problems. They couldn't. I remember one thing about the collapse of the Soviet Union, that also triggered a series of coup d'etats and wars in Africa, because suddenly the balance of power was shifting, and they didn't have any more control, and so you know, the weakness at times has created possibilities for new players. In this case, China, that has launched their new Silk Road, their new belt, whatever initiative, and that now is being officially rejected in Europe. But I mean, to what extent we don't know, because Europe seems to me pretty Chinese too, to tell you the truth. When I go to a bar in Milan, most of the times these days is Chinese who own it. So
absolutely. I'm just laughing at the comments. I'm just moving my pen.
There is actually a comment which I was interested in, is, you know, tell us more about Chantel. Who is Chantel? Maybe we can reverse the interview this time and say, who is Chantel?
Yeah, like, I mean, I saw that comment. Yeah, that person's gone off for a while because they were a little bit cheeky. So they've been put into timeout for a few minutes.
You know, who is Chantel? Why Chantel decided one day to dedicate herself to this cause?
Well, Chantel just decided there was Chantel just figured out there was a lot more going on beneath the surfaces than what the average person cared to give thought to. So I just started digging. I'm a farm girl from Africa and decided that's what needed to happen. So here I am. That's who I am.
I think that's a great answer. Going back to, of course, this whole thing that it's discussed today, that we have discussed today. I mean, we have discussed both the movie, but we also discussed China as one of the main players. I think that Obama's interest in this movie is pretty clear. Like we said, is about producing something, a reaction in people. And I think that this film is definitely producing reactions in people. So people will maybe take one thing from the movie and interpret it in one way, other will take it and interpret it. The element, of course, the race element makes me laugh, because it's just like, I never saw so much racism in America since the arrival of Barack Obama in the White House. I think that was really the moment, the turning point in which America became racist, because when I came the first time in America in the early 80s and stuff, America was a different country. In the 80s, it was a different country in the 90s. And suddenly, unfortunately, we had, of course, 9/11, which was the beginning of all this. Let's never forget 9/11. 9/11 is the turning point, the real turning point, the kickstart, I would say, more than the turning point of this new world disorder. Now, one thing that at one point the character in this film, that is this black dude in the film, says, that I regard as interesting, is we might start the crisis and things, but the problem, talking about an hypothetical new world order, about a conspiracy, he tends to reject that notion. He says, the sad truth is that there is nobody really in charge of all this. While instead, I think it's pretty clear that there is people in charge. People in charge. People like Klaus Schwab made it very clear. They want to be in charge of the future of the AI, of the future of this technology, of everything. So, I mean, it seems like pretty obvious who is in charge when, like I said in volume 8, most of the Hollywood producers go to Klaus Schwab every year in Davos and take basically marching orders from him on the subject to be discussed in the next movies. So it's obvious that this film, like the one that is coming out next year, produced by A24, that is talking about the Civil War, are immediate stuff that is generated from Davos.
Right. Exactly.
It's no longer the woke moment, because the woke moment has also, I think, sent bankrupt a lot of companies here in America, like Disney, who understood that by now. I think if they're not complete idiots, but they're not, they're doing it for other reasons. That if they make everything LGBT, whatever, and everything is inverted, everything, it doesn't bring people to the cinemas. We don't want to necessarily see these kind of things, and we don't want to necessarily show them to our children. But in any case, now that they have, 90% of the movies have been in the last, let's say, 5 to 10 years, but especially in the last 5 years, and this, like I said in volume 8, taking order directly from Klaus Schwab, all about LGBT, color, race, this and that, and all the other. Suddenly now they go to the next stage. And the next stage is portraying the patriots as the ones that are really dangerous, the evil in some way.
Exactly.
and that, in an end time scenario, we need to be aware of them, because, they might have, they might have bad intentions toward us, because we are not the right kind of Americans, all this BS, whatever.
It's so true. It's divide and conquer. And it really
divide
is. I mean,
and conquer, and also divide we fall, like somebody's saying in the chat, because unfortunately the United States is a union, and this is the great thing of this country, which I am proud of becoming part of. America is a place where in 1776 they simply said to the powers that be there in Europe, all those idiots, those monarchies and all that, and try to build up something else. Now, not that the monarchies were necessarily evil, all of them, but the problem was that they were starting to become more and more corrupt, and in fact, the Illuminati then either destroyed the monarchies and substituted them with republics, or either it created this constitutional monarchy scenario. But the 1776 experiment, which I also discuss in my books as one of the greatest experiments of mankind, it's an experiment that is also very fragile, because this constitution gives us great opportunities. I mean, I'm here, I can talk with you. Nobody comes knocking on my door, at least until now. I don't have, if I was in Italy, after 10 minutes, I will have the Digos, which is like the FBI, and I will be arrested, because that's what they did. So I'm a witness to how things are in Europe now. That is, it's a prison, Europe, for people who really want to talk against the system. I'm not talking about those lions of the computer who talks with nickname about the things and posts bullshit that they've taken from the internet. I'm talking about people who really denounce the system and fight the system like I did. So now here we have a beautiful constitution, the First and the Second Amendment, that are under attack. We have seen how they try to censor us. We are ourselves limited in what we can say here before we trigger an algorithm that will start saying that we shouldn't discuss this or that, or they put down the video.
I'm forever triggering algorithms, Leo.
No, but this guy is not trigger.
I think I'm off the charts with algorithms already. They don't even bother me anymore.
That's okay. Thank God. But in any case, we are fighting the censorship every time. We saw how the censorship intervened very heavily during the pandemic. I had 17 YouTube channels removed. So that is just 17. And they started from October 2020, just a month before the election. Boom. Because, of course, they wanted to eliminate those people who could spread another narrative about things. I mean, they removed some of my channels because I was talking about what Hunter Biden was now charged with. So, I mean, they should repristinate my YouTube channels and send me the apologies. But that's not the style of these censors. So, who cares? But in any case, they have started with the censorship. And then, of course, in the last few years, these never-ending shootings that are triggered, like I explained in volume 8, by the music and the cinema, produced by the very same people who then tell us, oh, they're so evil, those machine guns. Yeah, but then you show them in your videos, you parade them with your big golden chains in your hip-hop videos, and then you say that they're evil. Geez, man, I get so angry with these people.
Yeah, it's a hypocrisy. It really is a hypocrisy. And the narrative is so controlled, and it will be for a while. I think the narrative will be controlled for a while.
Yeah, yes. But the thing is, this constitution is under attack by who? By countries that don't have a constitution, by countries that nowadays give the possibility to one man, for example, Xi Jinping, to rule for the next 20 years, to Vladimir Putin, who has already ruled for the past 20, to rule for another 23 years or whatever. So the thing is that we are weak, because now all this so-called democratic talk that we have here, in a constitutional republic, by the way, who works in a slightly different way from how the so-called democracies have worked up until now in other places, which are complete, where they say democracy, there is no democracy. I'm an example of that. I mean, the injustices that I suffered in so-called democratic Europe are out of order in countries like Norway, tortured in countries like Norway or Italy, locked up, accused of espionage, all kinds of things, simply because I was doing my investigative journalist work. So I think that America is still a great country. These people want to sabotage it. If these films like the film The Leave the War Behind and Civil War are a predictive programming or a veiled threat, we still don't know that. But in any case, we need to be ready, and we need to wake up from, our, kind of idea that we can compromise with all this, because there is a lot of compromise here that goes on in our daily lives. So we want to have all this technology at our disposal, and at the same time we want to fight the system. Well, I mean, it's a little bit like saying, I want my wife drunk, but I want the bottle of wine still full. Either the bottle of wine is empty, or either there's no possibility for the wife to get drunk. So this is a saying we have in Italy. I really think that we need to get ready for what lays ahead. If Obama has produced this movie, there is a reason, and it's not to make only money, but it is to send a message, and we need to understand that message. So thank you so much today for having me on this show, for discussing these subjects that we do every month, and I think that we do an excellent job in analyzing things together, and a lot of people seem to appreciate what we do every month. The fact that yes, please.
No, I just wanted to say I really appreciate you, and I know you obviously a favorite with our guests as well. So it's always wonderful to have you. And I mean, I love you've got a wealth of knowledge, and I'm really looking forward to finishing your Confessions of the Illuminati Volume 9. Guys, it's available on Amazon.
When we want to arrive to Volume 10, hopefully we will arrive to Volume 10. So if this war doesn't go to hell before.
I've no doubt, Leo. I've no doubt you're going to give us Volume 24 as well.
No, but remember the 10 in the Latin language is an X.
Yeah.
Okay. So that is one thing, a clue that I can give. Like I said, I will be discussing a lot Islam, and not from the point of view of somebody who has never lived Islam, because I have lived Islam and I was inside Islam. I know the secret plans of Islam to conquer Europe and the world. So wake up, people. When you go around parading your support for Palestine, this is something that, of course, might take people a little bit by surprise, but you have to understand, we are fighting the new world order here, and they will make us go through never-ending wars. So this is only the beginning. It's obvious that now they are trying to start other wars around the place. So it goes into the never-ending war scenario that feeds into the Great Reset, because more wars they are, less money we all have, less property we all have. The property goes back to the banks, and the banks are very happy. The banks are very happy. The military industrial complex is very happy, making a lot of money this year. They have made a record amount of money. I think Lockheed Martin this year has a golden tree for Christmas. And so the people need to wake up. Can we continue supporting? Because it's not about supporting the Palestinian, the Israeli, the Russian, the Ukrainian, the this and the that. It's about supporting humanity against the advance of an enemy which is still invisible to us, but is there. And it is that cyber Satan, which I've been talking about, and as you know, behind cyber Satan, there is, of course, the so-called WAP, UFO, reverse engineering, that also has seen in 2023 a great momentum happening with the revelations of David Grush and all the others who went in front of Congress. So 2003 has been a very special year. And I remember when I used to, in my books, I used to say in 2020, there will be the virus, it will be lockdown, then there will be war, and the wars arrive. So everything is arriving simply as I predicted. Now, I hope that we don't arrive to 2030 that everything is like I predicted, and everybody is basically going to become a slave of the AI, lining up for having a microchip or a computer brain interface or whatever. And at that point, or they simply going to be manipulated by frequencies at a level that they will not have any more conscience and control of who they are. Well, I hope that can be avoided, but it's up to you to wake up and to understand that LEO ZAGAMI is not a conspiracy theorist, but a conspiracy realist. That's it. Thank you very much.
Exactly. And it's true. When we wake up, they do not have the power over us. When we use our own God-given consciousness, when we evolve our consciousness, where we say no, where we no longer choose to be obedient to the slave system that they've really created for us, when we stop eating the foods that dumb us down, when we stop drinking the drinks that dumb us down, when we stop using all these technologies that dumb us down. Yes, we're in a world where we really need to use technology and stuff, but let us keep it to a minimum. Let us start growing our own food. Let us start using, let us start forming communities where we're strong, where we link together, where we don't need to be using the systems that they are putting out there for us. When we start becoming more independent.
And Chantal, most important, where we educate our children to the values that are real values, not fake values.
Exactly.
I don't go to school to learn to become something that is.
And how many genders are there? There are 2 genders, okay?
I have a father, a mother, and that's it. It's not mother 1, 2, father 1, 2. I don't know, whatever the concept.
Women are not chest feeders. We are not chest feeders. We are not cis women. We are not breeders.
No, I mean, the reality, like I said, is a conspiracy reality. And if you don't believe that this conspiracy exists, well, then you'll be living in another planet, because it's obvious that this conspiracy is a reality that is manifesting in front of our eyes more and more. And the AI will be the ultimate protagonist. So it is thanks to the AI that then humans will be enslaved, and the robots will be there ruling us in 10, 15, 20 years from now. But do we want to really be enslaved by these creations of ours? Of course not. We have to understand one thing. As humans, we have become the heads, the rulers of this planet, without particularly being strong. We actually, tell you the truth, if a chimpanzee comes to us, he's probably going to beat us up, or a lion will eat us. Or in the animal kingdom, the man is not particularly strong, but he has one thing, which is his brain. Now, if he stops using his brain, well, at that point, that's it. He's not going to longer be, ruling this planet.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
I hope.
So let's keep using our brain. Let's keep thinking for ourselves. Absolutely. Let's keep realizing, that we do not need microchips in our head and in anywhere else in our body. We do not need jabs to keep us healthy and alive. We do not need to wear stupid masks to keep us safe from some deadly virus. I mean,
somebody is writing here that they call the kids in Australia have to call their parents supplanter. What is a supplanter? I don't know, man.
Okay, that's what kids in Australia have to call their parents now. Not allowed to call their mom and dad anymore. Well, it's going all over. It's like basically there was even stuff going on in one of the schools here in South Africa, in Cape Town, where parents had to be called, what was it? And I was really taken to task. The school contacted me and they wanted to really go legal with me. And I said, come. Let's talk about this. Come. And they wouldn't. They refused to come on the channel,
Last week in Italy for Christmas, a priest, libtard priest, put instead of the Holy Mary and Joseph, 2 women, a Holy Mary and another woman who we don't know. I mean, an angel, I don't know what it is, but there was no more Joseph. There was basically 2 lesbian women with Jesus Christ sitting in the feet. That is the curse that we need to bring down this planet.
That is so ridiculous. I'm sorry
Yeah.
I'm laughing. But that it just shows you where this whole story is going to, right? And now you're having men with beards walking around pretending and demanding that they are women. Oh my goodness. Okay, whatever.
Well, I think that we can discuss in 2024 for the next episode of Leo and Chantal here on Aquarius Rising Africa. We're going to be working some magic for you for the next episode.
We look forward to that, Leo. So we'll see you again there the last Friday in January, guys. I still work on diaries and paper. I've not bought a new diary yet, so I don't know what date it will be on. I still believe in paper, writing with paper.
Okay. As long as you send me the date, so I can have an idea.
Yeah, exactly. We will do that. Awesome. Yeah. All the best, Leo. Thank you so much for joining us.
They say, is Donald Trump an intellectual? Trust me, I'm like a smart person.
Whoa, definitely smarter than Joe Biden. All the best, guys. God bless you all.
Take care, everybody. Oh, my goodness. Look forward to seeing you. We'll see you tomorrow with Caleb Jade. And see you Sunday again with Caleb Jade. And we will do on Sunday, for those of you that have been asking in the section, we will do the Zoom gathering on Sunday as well. So watch the space. I'll give you the times, etc. And in the meantime, God bless you all. I wish you health, wealth, and lots of abundance of all the beautiful things. There is Leo Zagami's book, Confessions of the Illuminati, volume 9,
volume 9, volume 7, volume 6.66, volume 8. These are.
I'm gonna get volume 6.66. Yeah, I've got 8. I've got 8 to 9.
They're all
I love them.
I will also suggest them along with, of course, The Art of the Deal. Okay, guys.
Of course.
All the best.
Take it easy, everybody. Bye-bye.